Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that further to the resolutions of the House of 5th and 6th March 2025 regarding the reconstitution of committees, this House resolves as follows. One, that with respect to departmental committees, where a chairperson or vice chairperson is ordinarily elected for the term of Parliament, the elections will only be undertaken for the positions of chairperson or vice chairperson, which fell vacant as a result of the recent reconstitution of committees, being the following. A, chairpersons for the departmental committees on energy, environment and forestry and mining, health, labor, and trade, industry and cooperatives, and B, the vice chairpersons for the departmental committees on education, lands, regional development, and tourism and wildlife. And two, that with respect to all other select committees which were reconstituted pursuant to the standing orders and whose leadership also lapsed at the commencement of this session, elections for all chairpersons and vice chairpersons will be undertaken for the respective vacant positions as per the schedule circulated by the clerk on the 6th of March 2025. Honorable Speaker, the import of this motion is to allow the House to elect chairs and vice chairs for the 18 committees, select committees whose term had lapsed. And therefore, since the term had lapsed, they had no chairs and vice chairs, and they are naturally going to hold elections to elect their chairs and vice chairs. Two is to limit our elections of departmental committees to only the chairs and vice chairs who were affected by the reconstitution of committees, because they are chairs, for instance, of the Committee of Forestry, Energy, Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, whose chairs were able to be moved from one committee to the other, and therefore those committees do not have substantive chairs. The same with the departmental committees on tourism and wildlife, regional development, education and lands. The vice chairs again were moved, and therefore they will be expected to hold elections for those vice chairs. And the import of that for all the other chairs is that, and vice chairs, is that we shall not have elections for all the other chairs and vice chairs. Honorable Speaker, I heard you asking the Honorable Oudo to go back to his usual seat. And it is only Honorable Oudo and members of the Public Accounts Committee who would understand why the Honorable Oudo had to move from one point to the other, because I have seen his form somewhere. And there's a lot of lobbying, jostling for these positions. Therefore, we want to make sure that for orderly conduct of business, because we're also in a very important season, the budget making process. For instance, as I mentioned today, the liaison committee that has all chairs is sitting now, even as we sit here. Therefore, we do not want to disrupt them with elections, and they have a lot of work ongoing, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, beg to move, as we agreed in the House Business Committee, to this motion that we move. I beg to move and request the Leader of Minority, the Honorable Junet Mohamed, to second in agreement.
Honorable Junet, disband that Kamkunji, and
I know the Honorable Katan. I was asking the Leader of Minority to second, and the Honorable Katana is distracting him. And you know, before the Honorable Junet walked in, and I know he was in a meeting in his office with members of his coalition, the Honorable Amboka was seated where he seated. And when I requested him to second on behalf of the Leader of Minority, he purported to be the acting Leader of Minority. And that is why you saw the Honorable Junet walking very fast, because there cannot be an acting Leader of Minority. The Leader of Minority is present. And I invite him to second this motion in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to second the motion as moved by the majority leader. Having said, Mr. Speaker, I'm shocked that Honorable Wamboka was masquerading as a minority leader, Mr. Speaker, in the House, Mr. Speaker, in my absence. Mr. Speaker, that is very dangerous and bad manners, Mr. Speaker. It's treasonous, Mr. Speaker, because this is the man who has just come to Parliament the other day. I was showing him where washrooms are, where, food is taken. Mr. Speaker, I've taken him around everywhere, but now he's masquerading. Mr. Speaker, I'm really shocked, but I will deal with him in accordance with the standing orders. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I start to second, and what the majority leader has moved is that, there are committees that their term has lapsed. The select committees, budget committee, PIC, PAC, and other things. But there are committees also, Mr. Speaker, whose terms have not lapsed. So there was a kind of agitation in the House that people want to contest for all committees when they are chairs who are chairmen or chairpersons who are in office legally. Mr. Speaker, what we are having now is just a mini election. The general election is coming ahead of us. So hold your horse. This is just a small election or a mini election and midterm elections. But the real election is ahead of us. So those committees, the standing order is very clear. There are committees that were supposed to serve for 2 years. Their term has lapsed. But the committees that were supposed to serve for full term, those ones cannot be subjected to an election. Their term will lapse at that time when the 5-year period ends, Mr. Speaker. So that is the clarification this motion of the majority leader is making, Mr. Speaker. Because I have seen chairs who are under threat. Now the chair of Transport Committee, people are campaigning for it. I was wondering when has his term ended. The man even looked malnourished today. If you look at him, Mr. Speaker, he's really worried, Mr. Speaker. So this motion is going to protect him. This motion is going to defend him. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second.
Honourable members, I now propose the question at order number 11, which is that further, the resolutions of the House of 5th and 6th March 2025 regarding the reconstitution of committees, this House resolves as follows. 1, that with respect to departmental committees where a chairperson or vice chairperson is ordinarily elected for the term of Parliament, the elections will only be undertaken for the positions of chairperson or vice chairperson which fell vacant as a result of the recent reconstitution of committees, being the following. A, chairpersons for the departmental committees on energy, environment, forestry and mining, health, labor, trade, industry and cooperatives, and B, vice chairpersons for the departmental committees on education, lands, regional development, and tourism and wildlife. 2, that with respect to all other select committees which were reconstituted pursuant to the standing orders and whose leadership also lapsed at the commencement of this session, elections for all chairpersons and vice chairpersons will be undertaken for the respective vacant positions as per the schedule circulated by the clerk on 6th March 2025. I put the question. Honourable members, I now put the question and order number 11, which is that further the resolutions of the House of 5th and 6th March 2025 regarding the reconstitution of committees, this House resolves as follows. 1, that with respect to departmental committees where a chairperson or vice chairperson is ordinarily elected for the term of Parliament, the elections will only be undertaken for the positions of chairperson or vice chairperson which fell vacant as a result of the recent reconstitution of committees, being the following. A, chairpersons for the departmental committees on energy, environment, forestry and mining, health, labor, trade, industry and cooperatives, and B, vice chairpersons for the departmental committees on education, lands, regional development, tourism and wildlife. And 2, that with respect to all other select committees which were reconstituted pursuant to the standing orders and whose leadership also lapsed at the commencement of this session, elections for all chairpersons and vice chairpersons will be undertaken for the respective vacant positions as per the schedule circulated by the clerk on 6th March 2025. As many as of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next. Now, Milemba.